Thank you so much for coming out tonight. It's really nice to see you all here. This is a really important night for us. We've been talking about this project for a while, and it's wonderful to have the opportunity to share it with you and to answer questions. I know there's a lot of talk on Facebook. I've seen some of that talk, so I know a lot of people have a lot of questions. And I really, really appreciate you coming here to actually ask those questions and get the answers. I'm going to tell you, first of all, I'm Karen Rockefels. I'm the director of the library. I also live here as a city, raising my children here. And I've been the director since 2015. Let me tell you a little bit about how we're going to sort of format tonight so that you can expect that. We're going to walk you through a presentation about the project that we're talking about. We're going to be talking about the scope of the project, the cost of the project, the whys of the project. I'm going to be doing first part of the presenting, and my assistant director, Molly Robbins, will be doing the second part of the presenting. We're going to ask that you hold your questions till the end. We try really hard to keep our part of the presentation tight because we know we want to leave a lot of questions, a lot of regular questions. We are joined by the folks who are working really hard to help us with this project, and it's important to us that you have the opportunity to ask questions that can really best be answered by them. That's why they're here tonight. And so we really wanted to leave enough time for that. We're recording this session, so we will post this to the library's YouTube page so that folks can watch it if they weren't able to come tonight. We're also having 2 more community information sessions. Those dates are on a slide. Why they're not in my head, I do not know. The first one is in Spanish. That's next Tuesday evening. And then we have one, it's a Sunday in August. Dates on the slide. I'll say it when we get to it. And that one's in English. So if you know folks who couldn't be here tonight and who have questions or would appreciate the information, please help us spread the word so that we can get as many people the opportunity to learn about this project as we can. I'm Karen Rockefels, library director. Molly Robbins is our assistant director. Mallory Gallinaro is our head of patron services. The 3 of us have been working together to put together information for you, working really hard on this project so that we can get to this point tonight. We have our, sorry, I skipped our board. We have our OPL Board of Trustees. How could I skip our OPL Board of Trustees? I want to introduce them. So when I say your name, could you raise your hand, please? Our president, Megan Huppick. Our vice president, Amanda Crowley, there you are. Our secretary, Rachel Murphy. I'm going to go with who I see. Phil Rice is the chair of our Buildings and Grounds Committee and Finance Committee. Alice Joslow is the chair of our Personnel, Policy and Bylaws Committee. And who else am I not seeing? Amanda Marsh, our very newest trustee, who's joining us tonight as well. We're also joined by former trustee, Cecilia Quintero. Am I missing any former trustees? RJ. RJ. Thank you so much. Thank you for coming tonight. Oops. Our friends and foundation have been integral in our planning for this project. We're joined by Lisa Kovitz from the foundation. Any other friends or foundation folks here with us tonight? Virginia Blake West is our communications guru. We have this project contains a lot of information, and we need to make sure that we put it together so that it's understandable and concise. And she's great at helping us with that. We have our project managers here from Calgie Construction Management, Dominic Calgie and David Chen. They work with us on the budget, planning, schedule. Munistat Services, we have Noah Nielsen here. Noah helps with the information about the financing. He's the how much will this cost me guy. So when you have questions about that, we'll be turning them over to Noah. With SGH, We have Brian Stroman, who is working with us mostly on the retaining wall issue that we have. We also have been working with Floriana Martinez, who's not with us here tonight. We work with OLA consulting engineers. They are helping us with our HVAC issues. We're joined by Jim Dolan. We also work with Jonathan Katz, who is an Ossining resident, by the way, and uses the Ossining library, but he's not here tonight. We have our architects here, Bob Gabalski, and Kathleen Sewell with Lothrop and Associates. Our attorneys are Von Schenig and Kathleen tonight. So I know you all know a lot about the Ossining Public Library, but I thought that this was a good opportunity to sort of give you a little bit of an orientation of who we are and what we do. We were established in 1893. We have a really strong history of community support, and we are so grateful for that. Our community really loves our library, and it shows. 3 buildings, which I'll mention, are buildings which I think some in this room probably remember. We had a building that was built in 1914. It was a Carnegie Library. It stood sort of on this site, more where our parking lot is. In the 60s, that building was taken down. I have feelings about that too. And a new modern building was built at that time. And then, of course, this building was built in the early 2000s. The bond was approved by the voters in 2003, and construction started in 2005 and completed in 2006. We have strong usage by our community. It's a very heavily used building. This past year's attendance, and attendance means people coming in and out of the doors, was 194,000 people. Many of them repeat customers. We provided assistance 48,000 times. These are when we answer questions at the desk, help people with printing, help people with computers, and that type of thing. Our program attendance has always been really strong. People love our programs, and we support that. And physical items circulated, those are books, DVDs, and things like that, 130,000. And interestingly, our electronic items, it's about 40% of our total circulation. That has been growing every year, and we support that. We're very proud of this. We have been voted the best library or best children's library in Westchester 14 times. These are the 3 questions we want to answer for you tonight. Why are we doing this? It's a big question. What is included? Another big question. And what will this cost me? Yet another big question. So I hope by the end of tonight, you at least have answers to these questions. Some of the questions that you might ask us tonight, we may or may not be able to answer. If we do have questions that we need to do a little bit more research on, we can certainly do that. My goal is to make sure that everybody has the information that they need to make whatever decision they decide to make on September 6th. So what is this project? We're looking at a bond proposal that funds critical repairs and renovations to our building. And we feel we need these to continue to provide the best possible service to the community. The key parts of this proposal, and this is just a very broad summary, we need to do repairs to our retaining wall and drainage in our parking lot. We need to deal with our heating and cooling system. We have a number of health and safety repairs and improvements that need to be done throughout the building, and we'll be pointing that out throughout the presentation. We need to do roof repairs to the flat portion of our roof. I want to stress the roof that you see on the outside of the building, that roof is fine. It needs some new snow and ice guard, some additional snow and ice guard, but that roof is perfectly fine. It's the flat roofs that are on the top of the building, and you can see one of them when you go up to the mezzanine. You can't see the mezzanine right now, so sorry. We'll talk about that. We're looking at parking lot accessibility improvements. We're looking at energy efficiency and sustainability improvements. And we're looking to do some service-related upgrades. And what is the size of our project financially? We're looking at a $30 million bond. That's a lot of money. It really is. And we're looking to have a public vote on September 16th. That has been confirmed by the school board. And so that is the date when the vote will be. It'll be at the library. We estimate that this bond will cost the average taxpayer $184 a year, $15.33 a month. We base that on a home in any part of our district, which includes Village of Ossining, Town of Ossining, small part of the town of Newcastle, a small part of the town of Yorktown. When you put all those home values together, we come up with an average of $625,000 as the fair market value, or full market value, I'm sorry. In Ossining, we use the the assessor's office uses the full market value as the assessment. There's a calculation that happens in the town of Newcastle and the town of Yorktown, which makes it a little confusing to try to explain to people, but Noah can explain it very nicely. We're looking at a 15-year bond. And we are committed to continue to provide the essential programs and services and staffing while we do the work. We know that library service is very important to the Ossining community, and we respect that. We want to make it. I'm going to show you a projected timeline. We're looking to do this project in 2 phases. And this may change a little bit one way or the other. I'll show you, or I'll tell you where that might happen. The first phase of our project, should the vote be a yes vote, would start in May 2026. And that will include the repair of the retaining wall, which I'll talk more about, stormwater drainage work, which is all under the parking lot, and parking lot reconfiguration, including work to deal with the traffic circle in the back. Phase 2, which would start in April of 2027, would include all the other stuff. The new energy efficient HVAC system. Now here's where the timeline might shift a little bit. We're having a lot of trouble with one unit of our HVAC system right now. It failed on us, like it couldn't wait. So we are trying really hard right now to try to push forward a piece of the new HVAC system to replace the broken unit, rather than putting more money into a failing system. We really would prefer not to do that. We would really prefer to put money towards the new system that will work. So that might happen soon. We would do the roof repairs then as part of the second phase, the health and safety improvements, which are mainly interior improvements in the building. A big part of the floor plan changes would be the relocation of the teen room, and we'll talk more about that. Repurposing unused storage space into usable areas, we will show you that. Some efficiency improvements, including solar panels, work on our building envelope, and improved efficient lighting. Adding some meeting room spaces. For those of you who use the library, you may know that the meeting room spaces are very heavily used and very well loved. So we're looking to do that. And we're looking at other interior improvements, which I will show you. The next slide gives you a rough breakdown of the budget, of the bond part of the bond budget, which is $30 million. There we go. So of the $30 million, about 20% is for the replacement of the HVAC. 13% for the retaining wall. Those are pretty self-explanatory. 6% is for the roof replacement. 4% for parking lot improvements, and this includes the drainage repairs and accessibility improvements that we'll show you later on. Fire safety improvements, 8%. This includes new fire stairs and modifications to improve fire and smoke containment, should we have that problem. Health and safety improvements is about 15% of the budget. And that includes upgrading restrooms, addressing ADA accessibility throughout the building. Energy efficiency is 10%, which includes solar panels, UV film on the windows, those giant windows we have on the second floor and the first floor. Building envelope improvements, lighting improvements. And then interior space improvements is 24%. And that includes a lot of things that cross many of these categories. And I'll highlight some of those on the next slide. So some of them are service improvements, but a lot of them also include things that address health and safety issue and fire safety improvements in particular. This is a breakdown of what is in that interior improvements part of the budget. We're trying to improve access to the mezzanine and adult fiction collection. This is one of the more heavily used collections in the building. We're looking to install new accessible service desks. Show you what we're talking about when we say that. Adding meeting and study and program rooms. We're relocating the teen space away from the quiet areas. This improvement in particular has some pretty significant fire safety benefits as well. We're converting storage space and underused areas as usable public spaces. Right now we have a very large area where we have a great deal of storage. And it really is, we could use that space better than we do now. We're looking to improve the stair access between the lower level, the 3 floors, lower level, first floor and second floor. We're repairing the vaulting ceiling above the second floor. There are some pretty major cracks going on up there. If you've ever looked up, it's a little disconcerting. We're looking to install bigger, more efficient vestibules at the first level to give us some space and some more protection from the heat and cold coming in and out of the building. We're doing improvements to the children's room and the lactation room, which we currently have, but adding some plumbing in there. And of course, we're doing new carpeting and resilient flooring throughout the building. Not in all areas. We've already done carpeting, flooring in other areas, which I'll mention. A big part of the interior renovations that you're not going to see, but we're going to love is improved maintenance access to the mechanical equipment. Right now, our maintenance rooms where the HVAC units live are very difficult to work in. They're tight, they're confined, and you know, whenever you have equipment that needs to be serviced that is in that kind of tight environment, it creates a higher cost for you when you're trying to service it. And it's just more difficult to maintain. We're looking to do acoustical improvements throughout the building, so the quiet areas are quiet and the less quiet areas can still go on. And like I said earlier, these are some of the highlights. This does not include everything, and most of these things meet several other of those categories in the budget, but we just pulled them out as interior improvements. We have done a lot of work already. We're very mindful about trying to improve our building and trying to do it with grant funding and our general operating fund. So we've been very lucky over the last, I don't know, 10 years or so, in that we've gotten a good number of grants and donations. The foundation is one of the organizations who has been really generous to us, of course, and the friends. And then we got some really nice grants from New York State for several things. So we were able to do some of this work that probably would have been in this project, but we were able to get it done without putting it in this project. A few years ago, we installed a boiler to provide supplemental heating to our HVAC system, which is struggling. We did that with a good deal of state grant money. We installed study program and office spaces. You may have seen all of the modular rooms around the building. Those were all installed with either grant funding or donated funding and provide a lot of service to us and our patrons. We've done carpeting, flooring, and painting in areas in the building that we know we're not going to touch. That includes the theater and the children's program room. The Friends of the Library are responsible for this beautiful carpet that you are seeing today, as well as the new paint job in here. And the children's program room got similar treatment. And then we're always mindful of making sure that when we have to purchase new furnishing, it is something that can be used for a very long time. We always try to reuse our furnishing. And so as part of this renovation project, we are not hoping to buy all new things. We want to reuse and retain those things that we have purchased over the years, and most of it with grants and donations. We've also installed all new data cabling throughout the building. As you know, IT is very important in libraries these days, and we're very lucky in that the federal government thinks so too. And every year we apply for and get E-rate funding for our broadband, but also when we need to recable parts of the building or all of the building, we're able to get 80% of that funded, and we've done so in the last few years. So how did we decide what to include in this proposal? We knew we were having trouble with different areas of our building, and we hired engineers and architects to give us an assessment and make recommendations, including priorities, which they've done for us. Additionally, we did a community survey in 2024 where we asked folks what they like about our building, what they don't like about our building, how they use our building, how often they use our building, and we got some really good feedback, which went into our decision-making process. We're always getting suggestions from the public and ongoing concerns from the public, and we listen to those. We really try to hear those and make sure that we're addressing suggestions and concerns. And then, of course, staff recommendations. Staff work in the building every day, and they know what works well and what needs improvement. So we took their recommendations into consideration. A big question that people have is, what if the taxpayers don't go? Don't know. That's part of the answer. The majority of this project is for critical things that we kind of don't have a choice about. So they have to be done. We really don't have a choice. They have to be done. The longer we wait to do these things, the more expensive things become, unfortunately. And we will continue to experience service disruptions. Our HVAC system has become increasingly problematic. It's failing on a fairly regular basis. Parts of it all the time. It changes, but we're having a hard time maintaining temperatures on a fairly regular basis. Annual cost of repairs continues to increase. We spend a lot of money repairing our HVAC system every single year. Some other questions people have asked us. Were there issues with the original work being done? Were not being done properly? Yes, we know there were. One of the questions we get is, well, why didn't you sue someone? We did look into potential litigation back in 2015, 2016. I started in 2015. Most of my board members were actually not even, or some of you were with us. We sent a lot of the documentation about our HVAC system and wall in particular, which are the big culprits for us, to attorneys who specialize in this kind of litigation. They looked through it all for us. Their advice was, at that time, spending money on attorneys, and it would be a lot of money on attorneys and a lot of money on engineers, was probably not money well spent at that point, because the chance of being successful was very low. And so it was at that time when the board, really sort of understood and decided that we needed to try to fix the problems. We've done a lot of research. We've done a lot of reviewing of old files. We've found the folks who we think are the best in their field. I should have probably said at the beginning, none of these folks were on the team when the building was built, so should have said that at the beginning. We tried to do our research. We interviewed people and got recommendations from our colleagues, and we want to make sure that we are hiring the best folks to help us out with this situation, to ensure that it's done properly, so that we're not finding ourselves 10 years from now still having these same conversations again. A big question we get, we love the idea of our geothermal system. And so one of the big questions we get is, does our project address environmental and sustainability? And it does. We have put a lot of energy efficiency items into our project: lighting, solar panels, UV film for the windows. We're using the furnishings, which seems like a small thing, but it really is a big thing. Energy efficient HVAC elements, and building envelope installation. Another question we get is, will the Ossining Public Library continue to be LEED certified? The original building was LEED certified. We're going to look into recertification of some sort for sustainability standards when the time comes. I'm going to talk about some of the big parts of the project now. And the first part of the project I'm going to talk about is project management, budget, and schedule. We hired Calgy for that project management, and they have been helping us put together some of the preliminary work for this project to help us in our decision making. They helped us work out a schedule. This is a lovely representation of that very simple schedule I showed you before. Probably can't see it. Oh, maybe you can where you are. But essentially it shows all of the different steps from start to completion. And we are right about here. So if the referendum passes, then we will move along in this manner. If the referendum doesn't pass, of course, then we need to reevaluate. For our retaining wall, we have hired SGH. They are expert in dealing with this kind of retaining wall. I'm going to go into a little bit of detail right now about our retaining wall, and then when there are questions at the end, I will turn those questions over to Brian. They've been helping us since, I want to say 2017? 2017, to try to figure out what's going on with our wall, first of all, and how to fix it. So we have our wall surveyed every month, and have been doing so the monthly survey since 2022. Before that, it was less frequent, but we were seeing signs of distress in survey numbers. Signs of distress means that the wall appears to be moving. That sounds really scary. It is kind of scary. And so we knew we needed to move forward with fixing this problem. We continue to have the wall surveyed at SGH's recommendation. We added survey points to additional parts of the wall and then onto the surface of the parking lot, so we get more measurements to see what's going on. And essentially, let's see if I can orient you here. Here's Croton Avenue. Here's our building. This is the back of our parking lot. These are the spaces right now that are closed off, that you've noticed there's a fence around. And that is because this part of the retaining wall right here is the area of concern. This is the part of the wall that's showing signs of distress and where the numbers are not coming back. Right. This part of the wall here, this is the rest of the back of the wall, and the side, it is to the right when you're looking at the library from Croton Avenue, is fine. This has never shown any signs of distress. So it's really this part right here. This is a view of the wall. If you've ever stood at the bottom of the wall, has anybody ever stood like right up against the wall at the bottom of the wall? It's super scary. But this is what it looks like from down there, just so that you can see. So how are they going to do this? We are looking to, we looked at, SGH provided us with several different possible ways of dealing with the situation. Each way had benefits and costs that were different from each other. This is the way that we felt would be most successful and least disruptive. And so what we are looking to do is install new tiebacks and concrete basing into the back of the wall right here. And if you have detailed questions about that, Brian is more than happy to speak to that. But that's the overview of what we're doing about the living. We're also doing parking lot reconfiguration. For those of you who have tried to drive around the circle, you might realize that it is very difficult to drive around the circle. It is not well designed. I blew a tire out driving around the circle. That was super fun. So we know we need to deal with that. It's not useful at all to folks. And so we're going to deal with that. We have sinking going on in our back parking lot. If you notice back there, we have a lot of things spray painted yellow, thanks to our buildings and grounds team. There is substandard fill under the parking lot, which is causing places to sink. We've had to dig up certain parts of the parking lot and have found interesting things under there. So we know it's a problem. The handicap spots, the accessible spots that are in the back here, are not terribly well configured. Folks have to go out into traffic to get to the ramp right here. We know that's not ideal, especially for anybody who's struggling with mobility. So we want to address that. And then if you've ever had to park up in this lot here, this is the upper lot, and you've had a stroller, for instance, you have to go out into a busy driveway to get up to the front of the building. And so we know we want to address that as well. Here's what we would like to do. We would like to remove and replace the asphalt. And this is in addition, of course, to fixing the wall, so that we can deal with the bad fill here. We want to reconfigure the accessible spots so that they are closer to the back entrance and so that you do not have to walk out into the parking lot and into traffic to get out of your spot and towards the library. We would like to eliminate the traffic circle. This could be more like a K-turn, a 3-point turn to turn around back there. We would also like to add an accessible pedestrian ramp from the upper lots so that if you cannot park in an accessible spot in the back, you end up maybe in the top, you can get from the top to the front door without having to deal with stairs and without having to go out into a busy driveway to get there. I'm going to talk now about the HVAC system. We're working with OLA Consulting to manage our HVAC system plans. As you might know, we have a geothermal system running the heating and cooling of this library, and we have had significant issues with cooling and heating all along. This is going to be quite a few slides. I'm going to try to go through it quickly, but I do want to make sure that I give you the information. We have, if you've ever been on the upper levels along the glass walls, those areas of the building are very hard to heat and cool and to manage those spaces. And we have had problems with our geothermal wells. They cannot maintain constant water temperatures. The building was originally designed to have, I think, 3 very deep wells. When they dug down, I'm looking at Art, so you can correct me. When they dug down, unfortunately, the wells could not go down deep enough. They were collapsing along the way down because of sand. And so instead they made 5 more shallow wells, but there's still a lot of sand down there, and that's coming up. So the 5 wells are not able to provide the capacity to adequately heat and cool the system. It's undersized. In addition to that, the HVAC units that are inside the building, the things that use the water to cool or heat the air throughout the building, are undersized for our needs. They're under capacity for our building by, I think, 20%. Under capacity, something like that, yeah.
And decreasing.
And decreasing, yeah. And so even if the wells were operating perfectly well, we do not have enough capacity with our units inside the building to heat the building. Remember the sand I mentioned before that comes up from the wells? That sand, though we try to filter it out, cannot all be filtered out because if we find enough filter, it clogs and the whole system shuts down. So the sand runs through the whole system. It runs through all of that equipment, and it essentially sandblasts the interiors of those pieces of equipment. And so many of our units have failed repeatedly and have had to be rebuilt and repaired. It's also reaching 20 years old. So these problems just get more and more frequent. It's an older system now, which wasn't ideal to begin with. The well pumps have a history of regular failures and continue to fail. We had one fail 2 weeks ago. We just replaced for $12,000. One of our wells had to be decommissioned. So remember I told you we had 5 wells? We only have 4 wells now. One of our wells had to be completely decommissioned because it failed entirely. Our beloved AC5. That's what's giving us headaches right now. AC5 is one of the heaviest sort of used portions of the HVAC system because it cools the adult library on the 2nd floor and the mezzanine, which are huge spaces. It failed in 2020, had to be rebuilt for a very lot of money. And now here we are again in 2025, and it has failed again and has to be rebuilt for a lot of money, which is what we're trying to avoid by trying to expedite a new system to replace it. There is some good news. Like I said before, in 2020, we were able to install a supplemental boiler, a gas-fired boiler. And it was paid for with grant money. It was installed. It works beautifully. We didn't have enough money at the time to build out complete capacity from it, but we were able to get some more heating into the building, which is really helpful in the winter and has been really helpful. So obviously, we would like a more reliable system. These are the components of the system that we're looking to install. A new rooftop AC unit to condition the upper levels, to replace failed AC5. We want to utilize an air source heat pump for the lower floors. We want to install rooftop solar panels to help take some of the load off. Install a second supplemental boiler. Install an HVAC unit for the new program areas on the lower level that we'll show you a little bit later. Install radiant ceiling panels along the glass perimeter that I had mentioned before, that area of the building where we really have trouble. And we want to rezone all of the interior spaces and replace the lower floor geothermal units with air handling units. We want to install cooling and heating provided by the air source heat pump. And of course, the project benefits would be the replacement of our HVAC system, improved comfort, greater system reliability and maintenance, and also lower maintenance costs. Right now, we estimate, I looked back 10 years, we've estimated to spend about $80,000 to $90,000 every year repairing our system or dealing with our system in some way, or getting some new expertise to help run our system. So it is a very costly system for us to run. And now I'm going to turn the program over to Molly Robbins, who will talk to you about some of the other improvements we're looking to do.
Hello. I hope I'm able to make the technology work. I just wanted to let you know that I've been here since 2009. So I started shortly after the building first opened. So I've seen some of the issues develop along the way. But 2 things that I think are important. One is I have a background that involves project management. And some of it involved building new branch libraries and remodeling branch libraries for the city of San Antonio. So far, nothing has really surprised me about any parts of this project. I've seen them before. And the other thing I wanted to stress is that as much as we're talking about the problems we need to correct, this is a really wonderful building. Ossining gave itself a real gift when it built this building. And over the years, it's proved to be very resilient and flexible. When you think about the kind of changes we've had, going from people needing wired computers to now doing many things wireless, wanting to start with large computer labs, and now people wanting to take their laptop and sit someplace else. People's need for more meeting rooms and private meeting spaces, and our ability to create those spaces within the envelope of this building. And even the technology that's allowed us to create such flexible spaces, with the knowledge that if we have to go back and reconfigure some of those areas again to meet future needs for the community, we have that opportunity. So I really want to stress that this library, as much as it needs work, some of this work we're doing is going to help it make another 20 years, another 30 years, another 50 years. And I really think that was the intention that the community put behind making it this gift to itself, this really outstanding building. So I'm just going to go into some more detailed discussions of some of the things we're doing, and mostly in the interior of the building, hopefully give you a little bit more in-depth. But it's challenging sometimes to look at pictures. I know the 3D world and the 2D world are two different things. So I want people to know that I'm always happy to answer more specific questions. Of course, we have to address health and safety code compliance issues, emergency exits. How do we get out of this building if we have to? ADA code compliance and fire safety improvements. There are the structural and mechanical needs that Karen went over. One of the things about the curtain wall that I want to stress is that over time, as it's just worn and deteriorated a little bit, some of the seams and seals are allowing birds to get into the building. And this is actually a pretty common occurrence. If you ask any of the staff, we're regularly removing live birds that are in the building. We have to do special cleaning so that we're making sure it stays sanitary in areas where birds have gotten in or maybe nesting. So it's actually quite a challenge. And then some of our functionality within the building. We do have great lighting in some places and not so great lighting in others. We have places that it's easy to move around in and very comfortable, and we have other places where the door opens, you step out, you have no idea where you are or which way you're supposed to go or where the service desk is. And those are things we'd really like to address. I do want to say that over time, we have done a lot of things, like when we change lighting, we changed lighting to LED lighting. All of our exterior lighting is LED lighting, and many of our interior light components are also LED lighting. And when it comes to doing work on the building, these are not things that we're looking to, gut out and replace as we do this building work. Many of the things we've done, we intend to keep. We'll be working around those. I want to start on our mezzanine, talk a little bit about that. Let's see if I can find the laser pointer. There we go. This is our current mezzanine. It's just this section right here. It's where our adult fiction collection is. And adult fiction, most people who are big library users and library lovers love to read, and the adult fiction collection is a big part of that. They like readers advisory. They like to interact with the staff. They like to interact with their fellow readers. And one of the challenges of our mezzanine is it's very difficult to staff. We don't have staff on site in that area right now. We also have the problem that there's only one way off the mezzanine. And that's currently the elevator and the stairs that are right here currently. So we're going to have to meet code and fire safety, we have to install a fire stair. So the stairs that are below this are going to come up another level. And that is going to take away some of the square footage that exists on the floor. So to reclaim that square footage, we want to fill in the architectural gaps. There's a sort of decorative window view. We'd like to reclaim that space. And additionally, we'd like to change where the stair comes up. So now it'll be coming up the front. This will allow us to put in additional square footage that can either be for bookshelves, 2 meeting rooms, 1 large meeting room, perhaps a historical collection. Gives us a lot of flexibility for that space. And also the stairs will continue up to the roof to allow rooftop access for maintenance, which now we only have a small hatch roof, makes it very difficult to do maintenance work on that flat section of the roof. If you were to look at what that addition on the roof would look like, the stairs would just continue up. There wouldn't really be a change from this part of the exterior, but there would be a structural piece on the top of the building now, but it would fit in with the current design. Now we're moving to the second floor. I want to highlight that we're talking about changing that staircase arrangement. One of the things about the staircase, the way it is now, it creates a dark area, and it's also a difficult staircase to use, and it creates an unusable space at the top of the staircase. And one of the things that is also a problem is not being able for the staff to be able to see who's coming and going on that staircase. So this will allow us perhaps staff to have visibility, and also will move their desk so they have more visibility of the entire floor. This allows them to offer better service to patrons because patrons can see them and they can see the patrons. Some of the purple areas are areas that will be reused. The business office area, also our teen services room. As teen services moves to the lower level, then our adult staff will move into this area. We are looking at grant funding for some of that part of the project. We also intend to do some repairs of the vaulted ceiling. Karen was talking about that earlier in her presentation. So what would that look like if we changed the staircase? Well, this new staircase would be across from where the service desk is now, which is about right here. The service desk would move down a little bit, and this would be the new staircase. Again, we would be able to see the patrons coming and going. They would be able to see us. And it also takes advantage of some of the views that are up on the mezzanine, which are very important. And here you can see we're going to have to do some fire safety improvements at the top and entranceways of staircases. I think in most commercial buildings, you're used to the idea that stairways need to be able to be closed off in the event of a fire. And down to the first floor. To help orient you, currently this is the first floor. The circulation desk is right here. There's stack space here, and then you enter the children's room here. This is the children's program room. Some of the changes we would be making, we would be moving the circulation desk so it's more centrally located. So when people are coming off the elevator, coming downstairs, they can actually find the circulation desk more easily. And again, the circulation staff have visibility and access to people in all parts of the area. Children's program room basically stays the same, although we are making some modifications they requested so you can see in and out of the children's program room. We're also relocating their service desk again so that they have greater visibility of the entire area of the space. When it comes to our front entry, most of you are familiar with the fact that there are large openings that go down to the lower level. One is part of a staircase. The other is simply an architectural feature that's a large opening. We intend to infill those areas so we can reclaim that space. That space can then be for book displays, furniture, seating. That's an example of that underused space that we'd like to reclaim. This is an example of what our children's room would look like in terms of some of the improvements. We'd like to change the carpeting, the lighting, make it lighter, brighter, cleaner. And we'd also like to be able to create visibility for young people and parents into the children's program room. All of the work and improvements we've done on the children's program room remain. This is an example of what the new service desk could look like as you come in the main circulation area. For orientation, there's the elevator. That's the doorway into the children's room. So you can see this now is very centrally located. Again, improved visibility, improved access for our patrons who are coming and using the desk and interacting with our staff. We're also putting a barrier behind the desk, but also it blocks off the public restrooms. Currently, we have 2 restrooms that open out directly onto a busy part of the trafficked floor. Uncomfortable for the people using the restrooms, also somewhat unsanitary. And we would be reconfiguring the restrooms to allow 3 multi-use ADA bathrooms rather than the splits that we have currently, and upgrading the quality of the restrooms. This is my own personal little bugaboo. I have to put a pitch in for this. We currently have tiny tile and drywall. It's incredibly hard to maintain and keep sanitary and clean. The drywall has to be replaced as we clean it heavily, and that needs to be improved. This is what that new front area could look like if we infill those spaces that just drop down to the lower level. They allow noise to travel, and we can't use, there's just a huge gap without square footage. And so this would allow us to either reclaim it as seating, we could do book displays. It really increases our usable space in the front lobby area. And on our lower level, the level we're on right now, here we go. We're currently sitting in the theater right here. The reconfiguration would allow some reconfiguration of restrooms, which are currently down a hall. They would be closer to the theater and they would be improved and expanded. We would keep our gallery space, but one of the big changes would be that the stairs from upstairs would come down here instead of over here. This means that patrons using the stairs don't have to go up and down 2 levels and then cross all the way across the library building and then down a separate flight of stairs. So all the stairway traffic would be here. We're reclaiming our 5,000 square footage space. We call it the 5,000. It's actually about 4,000 square feet of space. And it was originally intended when the building was built and designed that this unused space that they left unfinished would be available to us to expand into in the future if that was necessary. And so that's our plan. It would be a multi-use space for all generations. It could be for crafts, other kinds of programming, a maker space, lots of uses. There would still be storage for us, for our friends at the library and their book sales, and for our buildings and grounds and maintenance team. But a big change would be the area that's currently, it was an old cafe. The cafe could not sustain itself. It didn't get enough traffic, and is now a sort of open seating area that we have. That would be turned into our teen room. It would allow us to have the teens using a space that gives them access to the outdoors, which they like to use our patio area. They also use the theater a great deal for a lot of their programming. And additionally, it's a space that when teens aren't in here, we could be using this space for other programs or services or events. It also would allow us to create an office space, a new office space for the teens, and some additional seating. And this is an example to help orient you, the stairs that currently come down, and there's what's sort of a waterfall stairway feature. Lots of people like to sit here. That's the bottom of those stairs. We would be keeping that. Here's the transition that would go up to the teen offices and then into the maker space and that extra space that I was just talking about. And here is the space that's currently just seating and open flooring, and we would be turning that into a teen room. And this is a shot I really like. This is the entry where you just came in. You'll see there's the staircase so that all 3 of our stairs go up, first floor, second floor, without having to cross the length of the building. In the first shot, we allowed you to look into the space, but in fact, there'll be a wall, storefront doors. We'll continue to have our gallery space. We'll continue to have space for people to sit and study. The direction to the auditorium, you can see the hallway you came down is right here, access to the main floor and into the maker space. And so I'm going to leave it there. I talked really fast, but I know that we've been here for quite a while, and I'm going to give it back to Karen.
Thank you, Molly. I did want to say about the movement of the teen room and filling in of some of those open spaces. While they do give us a lot of service benefit that we would be really excited about, there is a safety element to that as well. Right now, the way our building is configured, every floor is open to every other floor, which for fire safety is not a great situation. And so changing and reconfiguring to make sure that that is not the case in our building is really important.